Hi guys, it is Hilary here with Waterlogged again today, and I've got a super special guest for you. This is Cristina Zenato. Cristina, thank you so much for joining me. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Hilary, and thank you for having me. Uh, well, like you said, my name is Cristina Zenato. I'm originally from Italy, but I've been living and working in the Bahamas, specifically on Grand Bahama Island, for the last 26 years. By trade, I'm a diving professional, but maybe we can explore a little bit more what this being diving professional actually entails.
What age did you start diving? I guess how long have you been diving?
I became a certified diver at age 22, and I've been diving nonstop for 26 years.
Oh, cool. I gotta say, when I'm at work, diving is like my favorite part of the job. Like I enjoy getting to work with animals, but I get to work with the animals because I'm able to dive, and I didn't get my certification until almost 2 years ago, and I can't
Oh,
believe I
wow.
waited that long. I'm so excited. Love diving. Um, so you do obviously you're gonna dive with the sharks, so you're gonna have different gear than what you would have on if you were going to dive in a cave. Can you give me a description of some of the gear that you will be wearing in both situations, and maybe you have photos that we can throw up
Yes.
as talk about this?
So the cave and shark diving from not only a gear but even from a performance point of view are completely the opposite. Because during the shark dive, we swim over to the little site, and then I literally take my fins off and stand on this sandy area, which is one specific sandy area we selected that we're going to disturb. And I stand in the sand in super overweighted chain suit. So I'm wearing a regular single tank, like a recreational diver with a regular BCD. I have the traditional regulator hoses. The only thing is they're covered in a conduit. And yes, it's just there to prevent an accidental bite, because in the past we had them without protection. If a shark accidentally just grazed it with the teeth, it will break the hose and then the dive is over. With the conduit, even if the sharks by accidentally, just graze it with the teeth, it is not going to do any damage. So you don't have to interrupt the dive. So the scuba diving gear is similar to a recreational diver. Right? The difference is in the suit I wear. The suit is made by a company called Tunic, and it's a stainless steel suit. It's about 20 pounds in weight, and is made by over 400,000
Whoa.
interlocked little chain links. I call it. It's one of the most amazing creations. And the funny part is the gloves are actually born for butcher gloves, right? A butcher with a very sharp knife will be holding on to something, wearing the chain, so that if you cut and the knife went, you didn't actually hurt your fingers. That's how the gloves were born. And then they built the entire suit. The most amazing thing is this is metal, and I can still move my
Whoa.
hand very comfortably. There's a little bit of loss of dexterity, but all considered is basically nothing. So this suit is about 20 pounds. Like I said, the bad part is not the weight, because if you're a dry suit diver, you may end up wearing more than that. The dangerous part of the suit is you can't ditch it. So once you're inside the suit and you're all zipped up and closed, if you have an emergency, you will have to deal with the emergency out of air, like a problem with the hose, a free flowing regulator, or anything like that, with the suit on. And you have to egress the water with the suit and the gear on. So they basically become like one thing. So when we dive with the sharks, is the suit helps with preventing what we call accidental bites, but it doesn't make up for knowledge, understanding, planning, or anything like that. And there's a little bit of training that goes behind it, because you have to work dressed in it. In cave diving, we carry way more than 20 pounds of gear on ourselves, but the concept is to actually stay neutrally buoyant. So one of the things that you will see cave diver is they have this capability. They have to be able to sit, not only move and swim, but like literally sit in the water without dropping their fins, without hitting the ceiling, and without damaging any of the features, or basically creating issues with the line, the visibility. The level of gear I wear right now, it's side mount gear. So instead of having one tank, I have two tanks. and I'm also on a rebreather. A rebreather is a machine that recycles my breath and re-injected oxygen for me to continue to be breathing. So it has a kind of like two filters. They're called scrubbers, where my exhale breath goes through, is stripped of the carbon dioxide, my waste product, goes back through the lungs, is injected with new oxygen through a continuous little flow, and comes back into my mouth as basically regenerated breath. So that means the tanks that I have on my side, maybe in a 4-hour dive, I may see like a change in pressure of 100 psi in one aluminum 80.
Whoa.
And those are also my bailout gases. So with this, I can stay down there longer. I have less decompression requirements or none, for example. I stay warmer. And I also have a much higher reserve of gas than if it's just an open circuit.
Wow.
Also, in cave diving, you'll see me wearing a dry suit. When I work with sharks, I can only wear wetsuits because they have to be worn underneath the chainmail. So obviously for a practical reason, boots and all of that. Wearing cave diving, you'll see me in undergarment, dry suits to stay warm because of the water is 75 degrees and everybody may think it's warm, but when you start spending 3-4 hours doing things, you cannot afford to be cold. Then you'll see lights, then you'll see all sorts of things, and sometimes you're not going to see even everything that I'm wearing. But a shark dive in 45 feet of water, I can do it with an easy, basic dive computer. I have like a Shearwater Taric. I put it on open circuit mode and does, the job that needs to be done. 45 feet of water I have forever in time. I run low on gas before I run low on time. In a cave dive, you'll see complex computers. So you have complex lights. So you have quite a lot of extra gear. If then you add my camera when I take pictures and videos, then there's quite a huge amount of all of these things that I put on.
I've seen photos of like the rigs that people use for underwater photography, and they're just absolutely massive. I'm always impressed how you cave divers are able to like maintain that buoyancy with all of that gear.
Well, mine doesn't look massive. If you see me in it, it actually doesn't look massive because it's all side mount. So I don't have a mini fridge on my back. I have 2 aluminum 80s side mount, and my rebreather basically fits between the shape of my body and my tank, and does my little harness, and that's it. And that is it. I have nothing on my back. So the trick actually for us, especially here in the Bahamas, is to have all of this redundant gear and everything that we need, but also remain as small as streamlined as we can. So when you see us, you're not going to see the traditional pictures with everything sticking out and all that. We're actually very small and kind of like can fit. I can fit in anything that's about this high. Crawford. Yeah. As long as the head fits.
All right, that's impressive. That's impressive. How many caves have you discovered since you've been exploring the area?
How many caves have I discovered? So physically, 4 different entrances. However, I also discovered like thousands of feet in caves that had already been explored before. So where explorers have been before, and I said, oh, this is the cave, these are the lines, this is the map. Then I went back in and actually found in some caves up to 8,000-10,000 feet of more passageways. But I also found 4 different new entrances that one we're still currently exploring. One we're exploring, but it's going to have to wait a little bit till the rainy season, hurricane season is gone. And then one, for example, stopped after 500-600 feet of cave, but it's still something new. So
wow, that's pretty cool.
it is very cool because you also get the right to name them. So
what names have you selected for them?
So we have selected, because 2 have been discovered both by Kevin and myself. and we're called one we call the Niflheim, which is the land of the fog in the Norse mythology. It's and Niflheim is a cave that is covered in old gray decorations, has kind of like a haze through the water. It's a very, it reminds us very much of the land of fog and darkness. And then the other one is Svartalheim, which is the land of the dwarfs. And the dwarfs live underneath the mountains. They're also known as the dark elves in the Icelandic mythology, but they're also known as the dwarfs in the Norse mythology, and they live underneath the mountain and they make these amazing creations under the mountain. So one part of the cave where Kevin went, because we explore in different directions because we're only two, he found this like very low areas, really wide, where dwarfs would actually be able to live and thrive. And then I actually went through very small restrictions, and then I found these huge rooms full of decorations, and so we call that Svartalheim. We then have another one called Anaconda Swamp, simply because to walk there, you would think that there's anacondas living there. It's like this terrain with swamp and palmettos, and the water almost looks like it's overflowing out of the hole with the grass, and you just slosh down in mud up to your knee. And there's like the grass is all flat, and you would think, there's anacondas. Um, and then we have Loki's Cave. Loki's Cave was, we named it after the fact that it looked very promising, but like Loki in the Norse mythology, it was a trickster. And so it tricks us into believing that there was this beautiful, giant, super gorgeous cave, and there was not much. Another one I called, spacious ship landing, because it looked like the entire terrain collapsed and looked like a giant spaceship landed on it. Unfortunately, that didn't prove to have much, but it's cool. The concept of exploration and discovery is beyond just entering a cave and having the reel and go down the tunnel. The concept starts way, way before. It can start. Kevin found these couple of these caves during a sleepless night at night. Couldn't sleep, got up on his computer, searched on the Google Earth, and then show me the holes. And I'm like, okay, let's go there. And then you try to drive there, and then you hike there, and then you go in the water and try to figure it out if there's even an entrance. So there's all this. I think that is the exciting part. It's like, there was an entrance, and then you go back with cave gear. You hike through all this difficulty, because some of the area very extremely difficult. And so before committing to carrying their 120 pounds of gear, you're like, okay, we'll just first go and have a quick look if there's even an opening, because a lot of places collapse and choked. And then you carry the cave gear, and then you go there and you go in maybe 100, 200 feet, and you're like, it seems to go. And then you go back and you're like, okay, this time we're going to go and explore really for the cave. So there's all these processes, and I found that the exhilarating part. And then I found the most exhilarating part is when you come home and after you've done your survey is putting a map in and see where it goes. And again, shows all this crazy interconnectivity, right? We have this map now that goes underneath people's homes. Where's the cave? Oh, it just goes underneath people's backyard and underneath people's homes. And I'm like, oh, let's hope they don't flush the toilet.
That's pretty cool. I can't. I think you were the one that posted the picture, and maybe I'll have to see if we can't throw it up on here if it was your photo of just. It looked like almost like a marsh with a bunch of like green grass, and there's like this muddy looking hole. And I think the caption was something about going to explore. I'm just like, that's gonna lead into a cave. Like there's.
Yeah, that actually led into a cave that right now has a 6,000 feet. Yeah, it's just a little red hole with all the mangroves in it.
Uh-huh.
And it actually opened up to a massive cave. There's another one that is, and you arrive there, and the holes have vegetations. The holes, some of them are so full of hydrogen sulfide and tannic acid, you look in, and the water is literally black. Right, so now is this leap of faith, and thank goodness we know that the crocodiles in the Bahamas became extinct a few thousand years ago. But you jump into this water and then you descend and you're trying to find your bearings. It's exploration at the raw level, very much the raw level, because nobody has ever been in before us. So then you have to evaluate the ceiling, the sediment, the entrance, where do you go? But I think that's what makes cave exploration so amazing, right? It's a process. It's not just a final result. It's all this process. Then you start learning about the cave, and so then you think about, okay, this cave behaves like this. So as you explore it, you start understanding that if you look this way and you look that way in a certain aspect, you're like, yeah, that doesn't lead to anything. But if you look this way and it has certain features, chances are it has something. So it's kind of like a dance or a game that you play with a cave, but you become familiar with it, and the more familiar you become, the more you understand how the cave will expand under your exploration. And then you find things, live things, that could be microbial growth or decorations or sediments or even critters, and your brain starts going, oh, what is that, why this happened, and what, and so there's all this inner exploration that you do with yourself. And so you come home and then you connect with scientists and you're like, hey, we found this, what could possibly happen here? And you just keep exploring, and the more you do that, the more it fuels the passion. It's not just about laying the line, is the answers that all of this can provide, and sometimes the solutions that all of this can provide.
That's so cool. Okay, so along those same lines, how does one go about mapping a cave? Like I think I've seen photos of like the line and the reel and stuff, but like,
So
most of what I know is I've just read and tried to imagine
yeah,
things.
so mapping a cave uh, comes after laying the line. And you can have places where the line has been laid by someone, but they never did the cave. The traditional method used an 8 by 10, usually a slate, with a super precise compass, right? A construction bubble glued onto the slate, and then a pencil. And what you went in, you literally put imagine this is the line in the cave, right? If you're on the water, you can't really tell if the line is like this or like now. So you grab your slate and you put it parallel to the line, and you make sure the bubbles sits in the middle of your device. And when it does that, you rotate the compass so that then you register azimuth. Then you look at your depth, you write down depth, and then you count the line distance. Usually we knot the line every 10 feet, or you can measure it with a tape depending on what kind of survey. There's 7 different levels of survey that you can do. So let's say a stick map. We count the lots on the line till the line changes direction. So as soon as the line does this, even if it's 1 foot, and then the line changes direction, you redo all that again. Slate parallel, bubble in the center, move the compass, write down the azimuth, depth, measure the distance. Line changes, can you do that? The modern method that we're using right now, it's a creation from a guy called Sebastian Kister, and he's a French mathematician who lives in Mexico cave diving, and is creating this unique device called Nemo. And what it does, you still have to maintain buoyancy given a couple of inputs, but Nemo measures the azimuth, right, so the direction of the compass, and the distance and the depth automatically as you're running through the line, making the survey much faster. The other part of the survey that it makes really faster, so this is the entire device that we use.
Oh, wow.
That's
Very
it.
small.
Yeah. Well, but it's come in the cave, right? So it has like a little screen on a CD. You can actually see what you're doing and tell them, okay, go into full, calibrate compass. And then it says, it's calibrating right now, so I have to keep stable. And it has all these little inputs and colors. It's really cool. But then when you come home, the best part was, and that's what Sebastian created first, is in the old days, I came home with a slate and I actually use math. In the beginning, you have to do everything with a ruler and a sextant and do everything calculation by math to create your map. Then Sebastian created Ariane's line, which is a software in which I came home with a slate and I was like, okay, I'm putting in the data, and the software built. Now what you can do is you connect this to the software, right? It still has a learning curve, right? But
Yeah.
as you learn to use this and you learn how to use the Ariane's line, then you actually have a map. So what this does is more precise, and it's also faster. you can actually survey quite a lot of line in a dive. So let's say if with your regional method, if I explored 1,000 feet and I had to survey 1,000 feet, it would have been like I think a 3-hour dive. And now, I can lay the line and survey it in an hour.
Wow.
Now, it depends where the line is, right? So if it takes me 5 hours to swim where the line is to survey, then it's still 5 hours plus laying the line. But it makes basically survey much easier.
That's neat.
And actually makes it easier to put the line on the reel, because in the old days we had to tie a knot every 10 feet on thousands of feet of lines that you put on your exploratory reel. Now you just grab the reel and grab the spool and you just put the line on the reel without having to knot it every 10 feet.
I can imagine. Time saving on both ends. Those are all the questions that I have, but if you don't mind, I've got some questions from my followers.
Sure.
This first one is from Sabine. How deep is it possible to dive? How long are you down for when on an average dive? And do you know the number of unexplored caves in the world?
How deep is it possible to dive? Well, there's people that have been to 1,000 feet, 300 meters. There's also people that have gone deeper. So physiologically, we are mostly okay with diving deep because we're 70% made of water. What the problem is that extra 20-30% that we have in our body, which is all the air spaces, and then how the gases that we breathe interact with our physiology under pressure. Because gases that we breathe, like nitrogen, oxygen, and even helium, which is a mix to go deep, do change underneath, increase the pressure of the water. So each gas then starts having weird behaviors interacting with our body. So we incur into what's called oxygen toxicity, nitrogen narcosis, or high depth syndrome. So the physiological is not just the body in itself, is all this interaction with what we take down there. So there are people that have gone really, really deep and done these records. I think beyond that, then it requires different kind of machineries. But it's not just physical, it's just all those interactions at the physiological level. I honestly don't know how many unexplored caves there are in the world, because if we knew how many unexplored caves there are in the world, everybody would be out there exploring them. So there's a lot of places that maybe are opening up now to travel or opening up now to tourism. But anywhere where you have a karst terrain, so limestone terrain, there is a chance for caves and for opening. So there's parts of China that now are opening up to caves, Vietnam, Cambodia, part of also the old USS, the old Russia, in those areas where maybe there's even areas where we're still under political unrest, where there might be unexplored caves. Namibia is promising, as well as South Africa. So other places could be kind of like reaching that. So being able to bring there all the gear. But no, we don't have an idea how many unexplored caves there are in the world. And the last question was of the three.
When you dive, how long are you typically down for?
Depends on the dive. So on a shark dive, I can be down there for an hour and 20 minutes. On a cave dive, I can do about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, depending on the dive. Again, there's physiological issues that come up that go just beyond being able to stay down there. But with the rebreathers, yes, I can do 4 to 5 hours.
All right. So Chris wants to know, what is the most interesting thing that you have found in the caves?
The most interesting thing I found in the cave, I think, are the critters that live in there. The critters, and also the critters that are not even critter, but they're still considered living beings, like microbial growth. So we are in a anoxic, in a space that has no oxygen, right? in eternal darkness with the very limited supplies of food, and you go down there and there's like these completely white albino, because they don't even have basically the capability of they don't have hemoglobin, they haven't developed the capability to resist to sun rays, and they live and they thrive into this place that is as foreign to me as the bottom of a black hole, right? And those are phenomenal. The Remipedias is one of them. They've been discovered by Dr. Joe Yeager for the first time on this island, in the cave here in Grand Bahama. It's called the Speleontys leucaiensis. And they're like these little crustaceans. They're like segmented little animals, almost like centipedes, with all these little eyelashes. They're called, swims with the feet, swims with the oars, or oars are shaped like feet. And they, if you looked in the microscope, they have these giant, fangs, like almost out of Alien. And they latch onto their prey and inject them with venom, and then slurp the content of the prey out. But they're about this big, right? So you wouldn't know this unless they've been observed before. But to me, it's fascinating that there's actually life, right, in those kind of environments. So that is fascinating as a whole, on the microbial growth as well. So it's a living form that doesn't need photosynthesis, it doesn't need feeding, and is still growing. It reminds me a little bit, what we found at the bottom of the oceans by the vents. And they actually live in an environment that you would think is opposite of where something can thrive, with hydrogen sulfide and no oxygen, and yet here they are.
Yep. When you were saying that, I was like, oh, that sounds like the deep sea vents. Cool. This next, I guess, series of questions is from Kristen. She wants to know if you have any advice on seeking out new adventures, and advice on overcoming your fear and turning your fears into respect, and how education can help with all of that.
We'll start with the adventure. I am a firm believer that seeking adventures is to find your adventure on your doorstep. One of the things I talk about is when I was younger, a few years back, I suffered a little bit of what everybody might suffers on social media, where they call it FOMO, fear of missing out. And I felt like everyone else was going on these incredible adventures and expeditions, and I was sitting on my island, and I would not have these opportunities. And what I did realize is, yes, they may have had that, but they had to travel to a destination in order to have that, while I lived in the destination that had all of that. And so I made a point, yes, and it's true, I have sharks and caves, but I made a point to make my adventure on a day-to-day life, on finding little hidden corners of the island, on noticing something that moved through the season, on finding maybe some critters. Like, for example, I found a huge area with these tiny wild orchids that are absolutely considered priceless. And I found a vast area just by walking and hiking and looking and listening. So I go, without the phone, without the headphones. And my encouragement is to create your own adventure in your day-to-day life through small discoveries and small curiosities. And sit somewhere. During the lockdown was a perfect example. I did quite a lot of videos of that, and observe things. And then you can start seeing, lizards, for example, mating. How do they make the mating dance? And these are observations that maybe scientists will love to actually hear about. So that is my recommendation for that. For fears, a little bit of fear helps us survive. That's how we are designed, right? There's a little bit of fear, a little bit of adrenaline, makes us focus a little bit more. So a fear also keeps us alive, but too much fear stops us from living. So what we can do is work on little steps. You just said it yourself, education is the key. So you need to understand what is the trigger of your fear. And then once you understand what your trigger is, you want to learn about it. The more you learn about something, the less scary it is, right? If you have the opportunity, you might even want to experience it, right? The more you experience something, the less fearful it becomes. And I speak this from a personal experience. I am frightened by heights. The height gives me the sense that what I'm hanging on to is made of jello. I just feel wobbly. I feel like I could be on a balcony, but the railing feels that it's actually moving like a bungee. And one of the things that happened through a series of coincidences, I end up being involved with flying a trapeze. Yeah. And the first time I walked up to the ladder because of a 7-year-old kid that was like, "So, are you going to come with me?" And I was like, "No, you go. It's very safe." I was sitting down on the bench going, "Okay, this is counteractive." I'm telling him to go and fly the trapeze because it was very safe. You have the safety belt, the safety lines, the guys hanging on to the line and all of that. But I'm telling him, "You go," and I'm not going to come because I'm scared. Right? So I climbed up that ladder, which trapeze really wobbles, and I stood on a little piece of wood, and I had two guys on my sides, and I was just staring into the sky's head. I'm not going to look down. And the funny thing is, after I did the first fly with all the security, many months later, I was actually flying trapeze without a security line. And I was actually doing little acrobats. The more I climbed up the ladder, right, the more I learned how it worked, the more I learned about the trapeze, and the more I actually was stood on the little platform, the less my fear of heights. Now that the trapeze is not here anymore, I'm actually, sometimes when I go to a cave, it has a 40-foot ladder. It's like, oh, I miss my trapeze. And all I should do is go up and down the ladder, up and down the ladder. Now, there's some fears that you might not be able to face the same way. My other fear is I was hit by a lightning while driving a boat. So a flash of light causes quite a lot of anxiety in me. So am I going to walk with an umbrella underneath an active lightning storm? No. But what I've educated myself is to go, okay, well, there's a rumble, there's a lightning, and then I count. And then I count on other people next to me. They know my fear, and I'll be like, this is still safe, right? It's like, yes, it's still safe. Okay, I can walk this much longer distance. I can do this extra. So instead of going in a completely, as soon as I hear a rumble or see a flash of light, I'm not moving and I'm keeping my legs up onto my wooden chair inside the apartment. I moved into, I actually can stay out until the storm arrives to this level. So those are the things. Knowledge allows us not to burn the witches at the stake. And practice or experience is something that in a certain way scares us, helps us reduce that fear.
That's
baby steps, though. Baby steps. I'm not saying just launch yourself, but baby steps.
good advice. If somebody wants to get involved with your work that you do with the sharks, if they want to come out and take one of your courses and dive with you, how do they get involved?
So currently we're working on creating an internship, but I want to create something that is meaningful and is capable of giving back. And because of the complexity of the work that I deal with, it's kind of hard to offer like a full internship. It's also very costly just to go out there and do what we do with the sharks. So we're working on it, and I want it to be comprehensive. I want it to be something that people come out from it with feeling enriched and having also helped out. So currently I offer courses, and there are courses that people pay for so that then the money can also contribute on the work that I continue to do. They can find everything on my website on www.CristinaZenato.com. So CristinaZenato.
All right. So if you didn't see that popping up across the bottom of the screen, I'll definitely have a link for it in the comments section. So check that out. Future vacation plans. I'm going to come and hopefully dive with you and your sharks.
And the cavern. Maybe you have a little look at the cavern.
Yeah, look at it. I'm not sure how far I get into it.
Well, you don't go far because I only take you within the parameters of what are the description of a cavern, which is no more than 200 feet from the entrance, within the sight of daylight, only in like in the big rooms. There's parameters that we set up in the industry. So people that maybe it's like, oh, I want to experience the overhead environment, but it frightens me. It's like, hey, it's like a try dive of the overhead environment, and you can do a little tour and see if you like it or not.
That's cool. Okay, yes, definitely. Put that on my list. You have a nonprofit. Tell me a little bit about it real quick. And again, I guess we'll do the link thing below.
Yes. People of the Water is my nonprofit. You can find it at nonprofit.org. And I founded this in January 2019 on the recommendations of dear friends who saw how much input I put into what I was doing, how much of my personal money I was putting in, and they were worried that because it was all self-financed, at a certain point it will come to a stop, because obviously there's only so much that I could finance. So they said, well, you need something that helps you further the work that you do in exploration, education, and conservation. And so I founded this to receive the support to be able to expand the research that I want to do on sharks. Part of the exploration and research that we do in the caves is so that we can actually expand the conservation that we have been able to achieve so far. So we've been very involved with cave diving on the 2020 project. We were supposed to actually do tracking of sharks to find their mating and birth grounds this year. Unfortunately, COVID hit, so pretty sure that's going to be the refrain that everybody's going to go back, oh, COVID hit. And so we're looking for next year plans to purchase these 2 satellite tags to follow some of the girls, because I know who is going to get pregnant and who is going to mate, because I follow their seasons, and so find out where actually they go, and then see if we can tie that into expanding the conservation of that area. It'd be really cool to see that. And also, at a later date, is to be able to expand the education reach. So right now I'm working on 1 scholarship to train 1 young girl at the age of 12, so the last year of high school, into the art of scuba diving, and that is what the nonprofit can afford to do. But hopefully I want to be able to open this to more, primarily girls, women, especially on the islands, and maybe in the future also be able to welcome international students.
Pretty cool. Sounds like you got really big plans, and keep my fingers crossed and rooting for you then. All right, so this last question is one, I guess, for me personally. So with Waterlogged, and I may have mentioned this in the past, I've been posting every single day for the past 4 years, and I'm trying to better get my personal message across why I do what I do. And so much recently I've heard, like, what is your why? And the reason that why I do what I do is, like, I love all of this stuff. I love the ocean. I love the creatures in it, and it just makes me so happy, and like I get so fired up and so passionate about it, and I want to protect it. So my question for you is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
I love what I do, and I love where I am. And so when you love something, you want to protect it, and you want to make it safe, and you want to make it healthy. That is the why behind everything that I do. I just want to create a better world for everything that I love. And as everything is interconnected, I just want to create a better world for this island, and hopefully to expand this model to many other places.
It's pretty cool. It makes me feel good, like when hearing your why, and like this whole leading up until this point, I feel like your actions and your words do such a good job at portraying your why. So it's always exciting, and hopefully, we can get people sharing their whys and inspiring other people. And
I like that post. Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cristina, for joining me today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful bit of time talking with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. If you guys are watching, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below in the comment section or send me a message. Cristina also has a Instagram page and those websites, which will be down in the comments, but you can also see them here below. I've always wanted to do that, here below.